Assalamualaikum students, I hope you all are doing well. Okay, so in this video lecture I will be teaching you a new grammar concept. So you have to turn to page number 11 of your workbooks, New Oxford Modern English workbook 5. Okay, so basically in this exercise A, question number 1, you have to use the following adverbs and verbs in sentences of your own. Now I will give you an example how we can use them. Now basically they have already given you phrases, as you can see on your book in A part, easily settled. Now they have already put together a verb and an adverb to describe that verb, and you just have to make a simple sentence using this whole phrase together and make a sentence. And you have to make a sentence in a way that the meaning of the sentence is clear in the sentence. When you read the sentence, you understand the meaning of this phrase. So basically, settled is the verb and easily is the adverb. They have put together an adverb and a verb so that we can make a sentence out of them. So let's start attempting this exercise. You have to attempt this exercise on your workbooks. Okay, so before attempting your exercise, you have to write this date on top of the page over here. That is Thursday, 7th May 2020. Now look at A part. Easily settled. Now I'm going to make a sentence of easily settled. My uncle and aunt easily settled in their new house on the countryside. Now see, the meaning of easily settled is visible, and you can easily understand. You can understand the meaning of this phrase quite well in the sentence. I have made the sentence in that way. The B part was quarreled angrily. So the gang quarreled angrily over a piece of gold. Now quarrel means to fight, and quarrel is the past tense of quarreled. So quarreled angrily over a piece of gold. Now the meaning of this phrase is visible in the sentence. Let's look at C part. C part says recently arrived. We have recently arrived in Lahore. Now recently means very soon, and arrived means to reach somewhere. D part is quietly approached. Now quietly is the adverb, approached is the verb. Approach means to go to somebody. So the humble customer quietly approached the cash counter. Now these were the 4 sentences that I made for you, and you have to make the sentence of part E and part F by yourself. I will explain these 2 phrases to you. Now noisily is the adverb in E part, and entered is the verb. Entered means to go in somewhere, and noisily means something that is noisily will be the adverb to describe an action that was done with a lot of noise. F part, unexpectedly arrived. Arrived means to get somewhere, reach somewhere, and unexpectedly is basically with a surprise. Unexpectedly means something that you were not expecting but still happened. It was a surprise. So unexpectedly arrived. Now you have to use these 2 in sentences of your own, and you have to do them independently. Now let's move on to the next question on exercise A. Before that, I will explain to you. Now the adverbs that were used in question number 1, like easily, quarreled, recently, quietly, noisily, unexpectedly, all of these adverbs, they were made out of adjectives and stuff like that, and they were very easy. They were very easy, simple adverbs. But in question number 2, we will be using a different kind of adverb. Now there are different kinds of adverbs. Some tell us how often an action is performed. So basically they tell us how many times the action was performed. Some tell us that. For example, often, usually, ever, sometimes, rarely. See, these are all adverbs. Now there are some adverbs which tell us where an action is performed. So basically they tell us the place of the action. The first one tells us the repetition, how many times it was done, and the second one tells us the place. For example, here, there, aside, stuff like that. And some tell us how an action is performed, like the ones over here: easily, quarreled, recently, quietly, noisily, unexpectedly. They tell us how that action, how it was performed, the nature of the verb. Basically they tell us about the nature of the verb. For example, beautifully, gracefully, stuff like that. Okay, so basically you have some, in question number 2 you are given some adverbs over here: quite often, never hot, always pleasant, seldom drinkable, sometimes unpleasant, quite noisily, almost everywhere. Now you are given 7 phrases and you have to use these to make sentences of your own. So I will make some sentences for you and some you'll do by yourself on page number 12. Okay, so let's start doing the question. Exercise A, question number 2. Okay, quite often. Our grandmother visits our home quite often. See, it is an example of this sentence. You can make a sentence of your own if you want to, or you can use mine. Never hot. Sorry. Always unpleasant. Sana was always unpleasant towards us whenever we met her. So in this you can see that unpleasant is the verb. It's describing. No, it's basically a verb, an action, and always is basically telling us the time, how many times this verb happened. The first rule is being applied to this. Always unpleasant. And in part A, quite often. So often is also telling us about the repetition of the verb. So our grandmother visits our home quite often. C part. Let's do C part. Seldom drinkable. Seldom means rarely, like there's not much there are not many times when you can do it. It's very rare. So seldom drinkable, rarely drinkable basically. So the river water, the sea water is seldom drinkable. Let's do D part. Sometimes unpleasant. Rainy weather becomes sometimes unpleasant. And the last part, E part, that I will be doing for you is almost everywhere. You can see garbage almost everywhere on the roads nowadays. Now see, I used some of these in sentences of my own. Now the words that I did not use were never hot and quite noisily. That will be F part, never hot, and the G part will be quiet noisily. Now when you're using these phrases, you are not supposed to break them apart. See, you can see in my sentences they're always together. Almost everywhere, sometimes unpleasant, seldom drinkable, always unpleasant, quite often. They're always together. So you're not supposed to break them apart. Now you will do F part and G part by yourself. You will make sentence of never hot and quite noisily. And apart from this, you also have homework. You have to do exercise C, question number 1, page number 20 of textbook, okay, on loose sheets. This homework you have to do. See, it's on page number 20 of your textbook. This is exercise C, question number 2. You have to make lists of verbs and adverbs in the following passage. First of all, you have to make the list of all the verbs that are used in this passage that is written, and all the adverbs that are used in this passage. You have to make a separate list for the adverbs and a separate list for verbs, and make sure you write this question before you attempt this homework on loose sheets. And after this, you have to do question number 3. You have to find 6 interesting verbs that are different and that you've never seen before. Verbs, and then 6 interesting adverbs that can be used to describe those verbs. Okay, so you have to make makes 2 separate lists for this question, and you have to make 2 separate lists for question number 2. Thank you so much. I hope you understood today's lecture, and if you have any questions, you can ask me in the comment section of this video. Take care. Allah Hafiz.